Hey, welcome back, Scott, man. It's been a minute.
It has. It's been a little while, and I am looking forward to it. Looking forward to catching up and having a great conversation.
Absolutely. Why don't you let's start out by, telling my new listeners, that didn't catch the last year's episode, what brought you into podcasting? What was the event that took place?
Yeah, sure. So my podcast is the Drive On podcast. It's focused on helping military veterans with their transition out of the military, and a lot of the struggles that we deal with. We lose too many veterans to stuff that's within their control. We can be doing stuff to help these folks out, and gosh, we just lose too many. And personally, I deployed to Afghanistan. The guys that I served with, we all made it back home. And when we came home, that's when we started losing these guys. And that was just crazy to me. We went from a place where people wanted to kill us and we all survived. And then we came home to a place where everyone wanted nothing but the best for us. And that's where we're losing people. So that's where I said, I gotta do something. I can't just sit around waiting for another phone call saying another friend is gone. So I wanted to do something. I wanted to reach as many people as possible because I knew it wasn't just the people I served with. It was throughout the military and the veteran communities. And, so I was like, how do I reach a lot of people? And I said, well, podcast is a pretty good way to reach a lot of people. And so, I just dove into the deep end of podcasting and, literally, like I had no clue what to do when it came to the technology or the workflow or any of the stuff that went into podcasting. I just said, I'm going to figure it out while I'm in there. It's kind of like, building the ship while I'm in the ocean, and it's rough seas and everything like that. So it wasn't probably the best, most advisable way to do it, but I was like, if I don't do it and just jump in, I probably won't ever do it. So I just jumped in and tried to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's pretty much how everybody has done. And it is kind of weird because us veterans just don't like to ask for help,
Yeah.
But there is
including me when I'm starting a podcast, right?
I did the same thing, and I've lost track of how much money I've wasted on mistakes that a simple Google search might have helped me on.
Right.
But so yeah, I know, also tragedy it had also brought you into this with your brother, because your brother had served as well. And, it kind of brought you onto a mission. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe you were setting it up during our last episode, but you got a nonprofit as well, right?
So no, I don't have a nonprofit, but I am involved with a nonprofit. And if I could just, take a quick second here just to give them a shout out. The Global War on Terrorism Memorial Foundation is the foundation that I'm involved with. I got involved with them about a year ago. Not quite a year ago, but 9 months or so ago. And they're building a memorial on the National Mall, kind of in the Vietnam Memorial area, in that general vicinity. And it's a memorial that's there for everyone who served in the Global War on Terrorism era. And that it's not just for uniformed folks like in the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, all that. Not just for them. It's for their families, the Gold Star families. It's for the non-uniformed folks, the CIA, the FBI, the Alphabet Soup folks who were over there supporting us in one way or another. It's all inclusive of everybody, and so it's really such an incredible organization. Part of my involvement is really just raising awareness of what they do and everything like that. So, that's my involvement with nonprofits right now.
Okay.
We had a foundation a long time ago for my brother that we had set up. It's still technically in operation, but there's not much that we are doing with that. It gives scholarships out to high school kids and that type of thing. But
Okay.
my main involvement right now, as far as nonprofit work, is through the Global War on Terrorism Memorial Foundations, and that's really something near and dear to my heart. After being in D.C. A few years ago and seeing that there was no memorial for the Global War on Terrorism era, all the other eras had their memorials, and I was like, where's ours? And then a few years later, I find out it's in the works. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. We would have to. I mean, the longest war in U.S. history. And so yeah, it shocked me when I learned that there wasn't one at the time as well. And I guess because I mean technically the war has kind of just now really came to an end as far over there. So I guess in that aspect it does make sense. So I know you also published a book too, right?
Yes, yeah. So my book is called Surviving Son, and the book is really about my time in Afghanistan, what kind of led up to joining the army, getting into the military, and then deploying. It's about my brother. You mentioned him earlier, who was deployed at the same time that I was, and unfortunately, he didn't make it home. He was killed in action while we were both over there. We weren't together while we were over there, in the same location physically, but we're in the same country, but we weren't with each other close enough that we were able to be in communication or anything like that. But, so we were both there. Incredibly difficult time in my life. And it was just something that I felt like needed to be put out there and be put into black and white on paper, and so that people can know what happened and know some of the struggles that go on while folks are deployed and serving overseas. I mean, I was one of those people who kind of naively thought, well, death like that, combat deaths, that's just something that happens to other people. My brother's gonna be fine, I'm gonna be fine, we're gonna come back home and we're gonna live long, happy, healthy lives and all that. And obviously nothing could be further from the truth after what happened with my brother. But I'd always just kind of consider that to be something that happens to other people, not to me. And I know that's naive, and looking back on it now, it's not a the right way to think about it. But I think back then it was really me just using that as a protective mechanism, because if I was worried about my brother the whole time I was over there, I wouldn't be able to do my job either. And then that puts me and my guys in dangerous situations. So
yeah, I think also, a war that lasted that long, it's easy to think everything's just going to be okay and turn it into a job. I say that because that's kind of how I felt. The first time we deployed was 2002, like February of 2002, right? And our unit didn't take its first casualties until 2005. Wow. And so there was a lot of deployments going on, back and forth. You would rotate in and out while we're over there, and it just got to the point where it felt like a job. Until it didn't anymore. And I think that's, it was like, holy crap, this is real. It could happen,
Mm-hmm.
So I do get it. So what have you been doing since then? So
my gosh, it's been a busy time for me. I've been keeping up with this podcast like almost religiously. I think you can call it. I started it let's see, about 6 years ago now, a little over 6 years now. And when I started the show, really, I was, like I said, I was just getting my feet wet, trying to figure out how to do this and everything. And I started off doing one episode a week, and I did that for probably the first couple of years or so. And at one point, I had about like 6 to 7 months of content in the queue. And I was like, this is a lot of content to be sitting on, and I'm only creating more and more. So I said, you know what, maybe I switch to 2 episodes a week and get some of this content out there and just start blowing through some of it.
Yeah.
And I found myself continuing to get to that point where I was building up more and more content, and it just wasn't getting out. And I didn't record anything last month because I was just so far ahead that I was like, I need to slow down, and I need to do some of the editing and that type of stuff. So, but that's one of the things like I learned along the way is like, it's not just like what we're doing right now, just sitting here talking, recording, and then boom, all of a sudden it's out there for the world. There's editing, there's a lot of back end work that goes into it, and so I've been doing a lot of that. But I love it. It's like one of those passion project things for me where I don't care if I never make a dime doing it. It's just something that I want to continue doing, and so.
Yes.
It's great, obviously, when there are sponsors and there's people who want to, support the show and all that kind of stuff. But, for me, it's more about just giving back to the military community and helping them out. Over the last 6-7 months or so, I've been involved with the Global War on Terrorism Memorial Foundation, like I mentioned, and been doing some just kind of outreach work, going to visit some of the supporters and talking with them and just letting them know how much their contributions and their generosity and everything is really helping to move the needle with this organization. So it's a lot of work, but it's fulfilling work, and it's stuff that I'm looking forward to continue doing in the future.
Yeah, I think, people, it's like the audience thinks that it's the other way around, that the norm is you're getting sponsors and you're making all this money from streaming that, doesn't exist. And then the reality is it's actually the other way around. It's, the majority of people, I think, that are podcasting start out because there's something that they're passionate about. Mine and yours just happens to be the veteran community. And
Right.
I agree that you're just, if you're in it for the money, it's kind of like the military. You're going to be surprised. Because
surprised and probably disappointed too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It'll be a letdown. But, if you can get past that, it is very rewarding. There's a lot more to it than just work and no pay. I'm like you, the editing process, I do enjoy it. And I just recently, within the last couple months, retired. And now I'm working Veteran Voice Radio full time. And I've got a little side business that is doing editing and building websites and stuff like that because I do enjoy it, and it's something that I have to do anyways. As you said, when you get done, you have to edit. And if you come to a podcast unprepared like I was today, you'll have to add your intros and edit the beginning where my light wasn't on and everything else. So yeah, you hit a key number though, and you're like not quite double, but almost double me in episodes.
Yeah, it hit episode 500 not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, and when I was looking at my schedule as I was putting episodes together, I was looking at the numbers because I have like a little spreadsheet. I'm a nerd. I got spreadsheets for everything. So
I do too.
So I got the spreadsheet, and it has all the the episode numbers, and then all the information about the episode, kind of next to it, all the guests and all that. And so I was looking at it, and it was like 490, 491, 92, and it was creeping up. And I was like, holy crap, I'm about to hit 500. Like, that's kind of a big milestone for podcasting. And I was like, I should probably do something special for that. And a little different than the typical normal episode, not just, release whatever the next episode is in the queue and just forget about it. So what I ended up doing is kind of doing a reintroduction to the show, because the very first episode was an introduction, just basically saying, hey, this is what the show's about. And I realized some podcast players, they only go back to like 300 episodes or so, like Apple Podcasts. they only go back 300 episodes. Doesn't matter how many episodes you have, they're only going to show the latest 300. And so, like, some people may not even be able to see that introduction episode. And so I wanted to do something that told people what the show is all about, why the show exists, and even answer some listener questions, because I put it out there to a bunch of listeners, and had them submit some questions, and got a bunch of good questions, but I was able to kind of weave them in to what I wanted to talk about anyways, and then just kind of, hey, oh yeah, by the way, we had a question about whatever, and but it was kind of fun because it was sort of unscripted, other than those questions. I had kind of topics that I wanted to talk about, but it wasn't like a conversation like we're having now. It was really just me going on about whatever, and it was different from your typical episode. And so it was fun to change things up a bit. And then now I'm getting back into those interview type style episodes, but who knows? I might decide to throw in a few solo episodes here and there just to mix things up to see how that goes, because I think it went pretty well on that, and so we'll see going forward. But I have a lot of content right now. Obviously 500 episodes. There's a lot of content. Each one, on average, are about 45 minutes. So do the math. That's a lot of content, and I'm sitting here asking myself, like, what do I do with that? Because it's more than just a podcast right now. There's a lot of information, and there's resource. It's basically a resource, and how can I make this into something bigger? So that's something I got in the works right now, is I'm just trying to figure out how to do something with this that makes it so it's more useful for the veteran community, for finding the information and the resources, and getting the help and guidance that they need. Not everyone wants to sit through a 45-minute podcast episode just to hear something that might help them.
Right.
So got to figure out other ways to help folks out. Meet them where they're at, and get them the help that they're looking for.
Yeah, that's one thing I do like about through the editing process, adding chapters and stuff like that, for the people that just, they don't have time. They're trying to get to a point or get to something that they want to hear. And I'm perfectly fine with that. As the last time we talked, I started podcasting for therapy, and I didn't know that until by the time I got done with it, but that's what it ended up being. And to this day, I still just bring people on that I feel have interesting stories and giving them a platform. I have recently started a new podcast as well, just kind of exposing things out there that is affecting the veteran community. The Iran situation, how does that affect veterans? I don't really get into politics because I don't really care about it, but if it's something that ties the government with the veteran community, so a lot of VA talk and stuff like that. And, companies out there that target veterans. I just released an episode about USAA and some of the things that they have done, and how the company has changed over the years. And, it's tough. It's one thing to have a guest on, but that solo talk is a hard podcast, man. Without a co-host or somebody to feed off of.
It is, because you're basically it's you're on stage, you're in front of an audience for however long the episode goes for, and for most people 10-15 minutes or so, that probably is pretty doable. But if you're trying to fill up a half hour, 45 minute, an hour podcast, I don't know, that it gets tough. I mean, doing it here and there, like sporadically. I have a handful of solo episodes, not a ton. I did more early on, especially like the first handful of episodes I did were solo, because I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't know how to get a guest on a show. Like, how do I record the way we're recording now? I had no idea. So I just, got the audio recorder on my computer and just started recording that way. And I was like, okay, I guess that's how I'm doing this, and we'll figure out how to get a guest some other time. But yeah, um, but yeah, those episodes were short. They were way shorter than these conversation type episodes. And
Yep.
I,
Mine too.
yeah, I know. Yeah, right. I think everybody, if you're, I help out with other podcasts, like doing some editing and stuff. And for the solo episodes, they are way shorter than the interview style conversations.
I don't think I could ever picture a Joe Rogan solo podcast.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine?
I just have a hard time picturing how that would turn out.
Just him standing there talking for 3 hours or 5 hours or whatever, like
it would be about working out and martial arts.
Right.
That's probably what it would turn into is a stand up for him.
And actually his stand up would be great because he's funny as hell. So
yeah, he is.
So that could be good, but I mean that's a lot of material, even for a stand up comedian. I've gone to comedy clubs and seen comedians, and they're up there for 20 minutes or so, half hour maybe, doing their skit, and then they're done. And that's a lot to carry on your own.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole purpose of crowd work. When they say you have to have an hour, your spot is an hour and you have to fill it. Well, okay. Let me find the guy I'm going to pick on, because but some people can handle it, some don't.
Right.
I don't know how you feel, but I kind of feel like with my past episodes, it's kind of like a spot in time. You see, for me, I've been doing this now, 2 years or so. And I see a younger me. I see the way I looked then and now. I see how the trends of the guests have changed a little bit. The topics and issues that they want to talk about. When you look back on yours, do you kind of feel the same way?
Well, I try not to look at the video side of things, because 6 years ago me is a different version that I don't really that's kind of like looking back at your high school yearbook and be like, man, I was young. So I look back at those and but it's only 6 years, but still that was the younger version of me. But I do see some of the trends changing, some of the things that some of the guests want to talk about, some of the things even that I want to talk about, because like you said earlier, it kind of became therapy for me. I'm talking about different things, and sometimes I find myself interested in a particular topic, and so I'm searching for a guest that can talk about that topic. And you'll probably see that through the varying themes that go through the episodes. And sometimes there's no theme at all. Sometimes it's you could be talking about like yoga for veterans in one episode, and then you could be talking about like I don't know, car racing for veterans, or something. You just like such a wide variety of different things between episodes. But there's other times when there is a theme, when there's a pretty consistent theme between what we've been talking about, and usually those kind of fall in line with the things that I'm interested in. Hoping that that's also what some of the listeners will be interested in as well. And so it's been a fun ride though, because you get to experiment with the different topics and the different lengths of episode. And like I said before, I'm a geek. I got stats on stats for my episodes, even stuff that none of the podcast statistic programs that are out there, it doesn't give you any of this stuff. I kind of compile it myself and find all this information, put it all together to find out, are longer episodes better, or what's the ideal length of an episode. And I do all this kind of research, and even topics, like what topics are the things that people are really interested in, and how do we get more people to listen to those types of topics? Because the at the end of the day, just because I'm interested in a topic doesn't necessarily mean that anyone else is. And really, the only reason why I'm doing this podcast or anything that I'm doing is because I want to help people. And if the people are not looking for the type of help that I'm giving because it's the thing that I'm interested in, but maybe no one else is, then I got to switch up what I'm doing. And so
Right.
I look at all of that data, just trying to optimize what it is that I'm doing, so I get the biggest impact. But from time to time, I do kind of follow those trends, you know.
Yeah. I do too, and that's exactly, this when this show started, it was all veteran. That's all the old guests I had were it was about veteran or mental health, right? And now it's really just an open platform, I bring guests on and I let them tell their story.
Yeah.
I have some basic questions that I pre-do. I do a little bit of research on the guest and because you just never know. Sometimes you get a guest that you have to literally pull
Yep.
everything. You're like, I don't know that we're going to make it 30 minutes.
That's right. I have had people where for folks who aren't familiar with podcasting, I haven't been a guest or host or anything like that, but usually before we start recording, we do a little pre-talk conversation, a couple minutes just to, hey, how's it going? Catch up, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes with the guests that I have, the very first time I'm speaking to them is just before I hit record, like those couple minutes before I hit record. And oftentimes that conversation is just fine and everything is flowing smoothly. We're having a great conversation. Things are great. I hit record and then it's like deer in the headlights. It's
Yep.
like, what happened? Where was that person I was just talking to? And can you go get them back? Because right now I feel like I got to pull information out of these people and it gets difficult. And I always have like a list of questions that I want to ask and things that I could fall back on if I get into that position, because I never want to get in that position where within the first 10 minutes, all my questions have been answered with, a 2-word answer or something like that. And, I don't know, like that to me is just like a nightmare waiting to happen. And I wouldn't want to put an episode out there that was short like that, because a couple of reasons. One, for the listeners, you're not really getting any meat on those bones, and it's not really a useful episode. But also for the guest, kind of makes them seem not all that informed, not that great of a guest, and for other podcasts who might be interested in having this person as a guest, they're going to hear it and they'll be like, nope, pass, So, I try to do right by everybody, not only the guests, but also the listeners and everybody involved. And plus I want to make sure that I'm protecting myself and the brand and everything too, because I want to make sure that it's a good resource for folks as well. And so I've had some episodes that I started recording and stopped partway through and it's like, listen, man, this just isn't working out. This is not a conversation I'm willing to put out there. And that's happened a couple times. Fortunately not often, but it does happen from time to time.
I've had one, because I don't bring anybody on that's selling a product.
Okay.
The closest I come to that is if you have a book and you're marketing your book.
Yep.
But I had somebody, I was really into researching cell stem research, and I found a guest. I'm not going to mention names or anything, but I found a guest that claimed to know about cell stem, and it turned out it was a sales pitch for these magic patches that take your cell stems and depending on the color of the patch will make it either give you energy or do this or do that. And I just, that was the last time I live streamed, because there was nothing I could do about it. And
at that point, when it's live, that's out there, and there's no taking that back. That's like firing a gun. You don't get that bullet back.
Yep, I made sure I put an announcement out that I do not endorse the product, that I am not behind the product, and and it was afterwards she gave me a sales pitch that to where I could promote her product and make profits off of people, and I just told her, I said, that's not what this show's about.
Yeah,
I don't even try to get sponsors. I don't. I don't reach out to people and ask for it, and I don't want the show to become something like that. And I do get it. It is, you do have to have sponsors. There's nothing wrong with having sponsors. You know, it's
Sure.
just unfortunately, you have to prevent the scams and the con artists.
Yep, exactly. And I've found that I've gotten pretty good with the screening process before getting people on the show, where someone will reach out and depending on what they put in their email to me, I can usually tell, is this person just looking to promote their product or service or whatever it is, or are they really interested in helping somebody in the veteran community? And so I kind of run that through my little mental filter of, what does this check out? Does this sound like this is the right person for the show? And if it doesn't, I just don't even respond to most of these things, because you get so many of them. Eventually, it's like every day I'm getting, I lose count sometimes at how many I'm getting, and it's like, to sit there and reply all day, you're gonna end up having nothing else that you do with your day, and then you really need sponsors.
yeah, absolutely. And that's another reason why I don't have an issue with books. I know some podcasters don't want to have authors on and everything else, but it's probably like 2% of the authors are actually very profitable. The majority of the authors, if they break even what they cost to publish the book and everything else, man, they did great. That is a surprise. The majority of my books, people would ask to buy them, and I handed them out. I didn't, they cost me $2 to get author copies. I'd sign them and hand them out. It meant more to me that they wanted to read it than the money. And,
gotcha. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be an author, so that part of it didn't matter. But I just, at doing it that one time, I learned how hard it really is, and I'm sure as well.
Oh yeah, and being an author myself, I know the struggle. I've been on many podcasts and other media, radio and television and stuff, trying to promote the book and get people interested in the story. And I say it that way because it's like you said, it's less about making the sale of the book than it is making sure that folks are interested in what it is that the book is trying to get across. And so that's what I try to do when I go on these shows and try to promote the book, is really just trying to get people interested in what it has to say, so that they yes, sure, they're going to go out and they're going to buy a copy of the book. Look, you buy one copy of the book, I'm making a few bucks. It's not like I'm rolling in the dough because you bought a copy of the book. I definitely appreciate it. Every single sale counts, and it is definitely appreciated. But if people are listening to this and I get one sale, it's like I could probably go buy a cup of coffee. But that's about it.
Definitely not from Starbucks.
Right.
So, for me, other than the guest situation, the other thing about podcasting that I learned is live streaming podcasts really doesn't help you. It might feel it does, because you get the occasional comment, 3 or 4 watchers, but you're on platforms that are designed to make you scroll and continue to look at content.
Yeah.
And so I learned that having an unprepared podcast live isn't as good as having a good podcast edited.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I've never done, for my show, I've never done any live stream type things. I've recorded some episodes live. Like one episode, I was given a speech at like a Veterans Day speech, and that became the episode, was basically just a recording of me giving that speech. And so that, that was live, it was unedited, and, it was scripted because I had a speech in front of me prepared. But it wasn't like a a typical episode or anything like that, but I've felt the same way that you, with what you just said about live streaming, is that, you're live streaming to Facebook, or, all these other social media platforms, YouTube or whatever, and they are literally designed to just keep you continuing to scroll. And so if you happen to come across the podcast, and even if you stop for a few minutes just to listen to it, then you're gone. It'd probably be amazing to get you there only, even for a few minutes, the way attention spans are. But the other thing too, for me, was, along the lines of what you're saying, is I want to make sure that what I'm putting out there is quality stuff. And I don't want to get stuck in a situation like what you described, where you end up having somebody who's selling their snake oil or whatever it is. And it's like, crap, man, I don't want that out there. I don't want that associated with me. And I want to have that veto power where I can say, you know what? Yeah, we recorded it, but it doesn't mean that has to see the light of day.
Yeah. Yep. And that's there's a lot of people that do that. Sean Ryan does that. He'll work his butt off to get you in there, and if it turns out to be misleading, not accurate, or whatever, it'll never see a production.
Right.
And right. I think that's great. So what is the future looking for the podcast? What's the big goal?
The big goal is, I think, still in the works. I'm not entirely sure what the big goal is right now. I'm continuing to put out episodes and, doing the thing like I've always been doing. But like I said earlier, I feel like there's something more here, and I'm just not sure yet what that is. I've had a few ideas that I've kicked around. I'm just not sure, if they're good ideas or how to implement them, and what really that looks like. Plus all of this stuff takes time, and I still have a job. I still have, other family obligations and things like that. So there's only so much time and effort I can devote to it. So, it's something I'd love to do more. I'm just not entirely sure what that is yet. I've poked around at other podcasts to try to see what have they done when they've accumulated a crap ton of content, and what do you do with that besides just sit on it and leave it there? Like, it feels like some of the older stuff anyways is just kind of wasting away and not being utilized the way it could be. A couple ideas that I've kicked around is, writing a book that kind of summarizes some key points from all the episodes, but then, like we were just talking about, writing a book, it's not like a ton of people are running to books these days. And so, how useful will that actually be? I don't know. Putting together some sort of like e-learning type course that, not e-learning necessarily, but like some sort of like course that people can go through, and, it has lessons from all the episodes that they can kind of click through and, get that information. That's another option that I've played around with. But there's just so many options that are out there that I'm not sure what is the best one, if any should even be done. And so I'm just kicking around ideas right now and just trying to see what might make sense. So
I'll be honest. The one thing I have thought about doing, and I didn't know how it worked. I have became just in love with AI. I'm not going to even lie. I use it for a lot of things. The DJs on our radio station are all AI.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I couldn't find anybody else that was willing to work for free, so I had no choice. So there's 4 shows a day on both stations. I'm fixing to get ready to add some DJs, but that takes time too. You got to write the skits and these are people that you come up with it. I got looks for them. I do reels with them. All that advertising marketing, it eats up a lot of time. But I had thought about on my media page where all my podcasts and everything are, putting an AI bot that you could ask questions, and just every episode uploading my transcript to it. And then, because it only knows what you tell it. and then they would be able to then find answers, by searching the AI bot through your transcript, or even ask, hey, what episode would tell me about this at what time period,
Sure.
and I think something like that, I've kicked that idea around. I haven't started putting it together yet, but one, because I'm thinking about changing the website from a WordPress to an actual coded website. But at the end of the day, I think something like that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's another thing I've kind of toyed around with as well. I use AI for so much stuff too.
Yeah.
I've kind of fallen in love with the abilities that it creates, the opportunities that it creates, and just the taking tasks off of your plate to free up time and allow you to focus your attention on other things. To me, that's just such a huge benefit of using AI. I use it for the podcast. I use it in work. I use it for all sorts of things. And I've looked into bots that are able to do that type of thing. And I haven't really found anything that I was really happy with. There's just some limitations in some of them. Some of them, had space limitation. You can only add certain number of files or, things like that. And so if I have 500 transcripts that I want to add to it and they have like a 50 file limit, then I'm like, well, this sucks. So that's not really helpful. But even still, some of them, from what I found, they don't do the deep dive analysis on some of the content. So even though I give it to it, it isn't able to answer all the questions from the thing. And I know AI is changing daily, and so there's stuff that I'm sure even today is different from when I was looking at it a few months ago. But and when I was looking, it just wasn't something I would be happy with, that I'd be able to put it out and be happy, that it would give good information, accurate information to the folks who would use it. And so, again, I don't want to put anything out there that's not going to be something that is helpful and beneficial and, useful to the users of it. So, same thing with the podcast. I want to make sure that everybody is getting the benefit that they're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. You would have to really be strict on the limitations so that it doesn't do web searches or anything like that. It's literally just transcripts of what you said and what your guest said.
Yep.
So it's really more of just a library index. It's really what it would turn out to being. But at the end of the day, like you said, technology is changing rapidly.
Very rapidly. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's crazy what a year from now, if we had another chat, I just can't even imagine what we'd be talking about.
I mean, I think the chat will just basically be your bot talking to my bot, and
yeah, absolutely.
Well, and then it'll send us a summary later, and just let us know what we talked about.
We'll both have deep fakes and
yeah, right.
We won't even be doing podcasting anymore. It'll just be our deep fakes.
That's right.
So I know we're getting close to the time, but is there anything else that you got going, or is the focus 100% podcast and your that nonprofit you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, those are my big focuses right now. I mean, I obviously have my day job, which is not related to any of this, but all the efforts that I do, kind of veteran related are focused on between the podcast and this the Global War on Terrorism Memorial, and those two things are big projects, but they're things that mean a lot to me, and that's I hopefully it's the thing that's going to help a lot of people too, because I think when you talk to folks who served in that time period, the Global War on Terrorism era, a lot of times people are like, well, I don't need a memorial, for me. Like I don't I don't need that. I don't really care. Right. But then when you kind of reframe the question and be like, okay, well, what about the families who lost a loved one? Their family member didn't come home. Should there be a memorial for them? Like, well, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, what about the guy who came home and lost his legs or something like that? How about him? Should there be a memorial for him? Yeah, okay, well, that makes sense. And so you keep going down the list, and then eventually you start to realize, like, well, shit, there should be a memorial for me too. And it's just like a funny way that we are. I think in the veteran community, it's like we don't want anything for us. Like that seems selfish to get something for us, but man, I will bend over backwards for that other guy. And so, that, but it's for all of us, it's for everybody who served during that time period. And, God, we want to make sure that, that everybody is recognized and everybody is, honored for the services, the sacrifice, the, contributions in general for the that time period. And so it's a lot of work, a lot of effort, but when you start thinking about it that way, it's like, man, there are a lot of people who actually deserve this memorial, and so let's do it for them.
And that's the awesome part also about podcasting is you're documenting people's stories. Not all of our podcasts are about mental health and stuff like that. Some of them are guests coming on telling their story, and
that's right.
And without that, 30 years from now we have no idea what's going to be taught, and that's another great reason for the memorial is we don't know in the future what is going to be said or taught, and we won't have a voice at that point.
That's right.
It is a big deal. And brother, I appreciate everything you're doing. And, you having you on my show was one of my favorite episodes. That's why I reached back out to you and asked if you'd be willing to come back on.
Excellent.
Just because I know the great work that you're doing.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate you having me back on. I appreciate, all the work that you're doing and everything. I think it's, obviously some really great stuff. And, happy to help and share anything I can and continue a conversation. Even if it's about anything really. We could talk about podcasting again. We could talk about it, veteran stuff. We could talk about all sorts of things, and I'm good to go. So thank you for including me and reaching back out.
Oh, no problem, man. You want to tell everybody real quick where they can find your podcast and maybe even get a copy of your book that's still out there?
Yes, that would be great. So the podcast is Drive On Podcast. You can go to driveonpodcast.com or just search for Drive On anywhere, in the any podcast apps that you might be using. The book is available on Amazon. Again, it's called Surviving Son. And for the folks who are interested in learning more about the memorial, go to gwatmemorialfoundation.org, and you'll be able to find out more information about that. We got coming up in the next, probably a couple months here, we'll have a design, hopefully coming out, to kind of show what it looks like and everything that hasn't been released yet. I don't even know what it's going to look like yet. I think that's still in the works. So, hopefully coming up soon here, we'll have some sort of design that we will be able to share. So if you go, check it out, sign up on their mailing list, you'll be able to, be one of the first to know about that once when it comes out.
Awesome. And I will make sure that we include that nonprofit's links and your podcast links in the description. So
excellent.
Everybody will be able to easily find it. Well, brother, we're going to throw the exit video out. I appreciate everybody that was listening. And I know 500 episodes, if there's something you need to know, Drive On Podcast, you can find it right there. So y'all take care. We'll see you next time. Be safe.